Excluded from family drama, I chose freedom in Hawaii. While they blamed me, I embraced the life I deserved. Best decision I ever made. Hello, welcome to today's story. Are you new here, or have you just come back to join us again? If it's your first time, I'd love for you to hit that subscribe button. Help me reach 1,000 subscribers so I can keep bringing you more exciting stories like this one. Today, we're diving into a story where the main character faces a situation that many of us can relate to. Have you ever been in a place where you felt like your family's chaos was all you could fix, but no one was there to fix you? Well, this story is all about that. How the character learns to stop putting everyone else first and starts choosing herself. Stick with me till the end to find out how she does it. It's a moment everyone looks forward to. The day your sibling walks across the stage to receive their diploma. It's supposed to be a moment of celebration, pride, and togetherness. For me, it was the beginning of my family's complete disregard for everything I had done for them. My name is Madison, and this is the story of how a graduation party turned into a family disaster, one that I was excluded from. But instead of sitting at home, sulking, I packed my bags and went to Hawaii, all on my own. The tension had been brewing for weeks, and when my mom sent out the final guest list for my younger brother Mason's graduation bash, I couldn't believe my eyes. As I scrolled through the names, I saw the usual crowd, cousins, old family friends, and people I hadn't seen in ages. But there it was, my name was nowhere on the list. I didn't understand at first. After all, I was Mason's older sister. I had been there for him through thick and thin. I drove him to campus visits, lent him money when he was short on rent, stayed up late helping him with his essays, and edited his thesis because he knew I had a knack for grammar. And now, when it was his turn to celebrate, I was being left out. I felt the blood drain from my face as I looked at the message again. Couldn't be right, I thought. Maybe it's a mistake. But no. My mom's group text left me completely off the list. I couldn't wrap my head around it. I called her, hoping for an explanation. "Hey, Mom, I noticed I'm not on the guest list for Mason's graduation," I said, trying to keep my voice calm. "Did you forget?" "Oh, sweetheart," she answered, that overly cheery tone in her voice. "We thought it would be better with a younger crowd, just Mason's friends from college. You get it, right?" My chest tightened. This wasn't about a younger crowd, it was about me. This wasn't some kind of oversight as I had hoped. I could feel my stomach twist in knots. For all the things I had done for this family, this was how they repaid me? I was too much of a problem. Too dramatic, and definitely not someone who fit in with Mason's idea of a perfect celebration. "Don't make a big deal of it, Maddie," she added. "It's not personal. We just didn't want to make things uncomfortable with Ava being there." Ava, my ex-best friend. The one who had betrayed me in the worst way. And now she was invited while I was left out. I could feel the anger and hurt rising inside me. "Sure, Mom. No problem," I said quietly, hanging up before I said something I would regret. After that call, I sat there, staring at my phone. My mind racing. I didn't understand how my family could treat me like this. The more I thought about it, the more I realized this wasn't just about the party. It was about years of support. Years of showing up, years of being the reliable one, only to be discarded when I wasn't needed. I thought back to all the times I had been there, the countless sacrifices I made, the moments I chose them over myself. I was the one who always fixed things. The one who stepped in when no one else would. The one who drove Mason to all of his college visits. Even when I was juggling my own responsibilities, I lent him money when he was broke without a second thought. I sat up late editing his papers, making sure everything was perfect for him to succeed. I was the one who made sure the family stayed together, planning holiday dinners, ensuring no one was ever left out. And yet somehow I had become the invisible one. When I really stopped to think about it, it hit me hard. I wasn't wanted unless I was useful to them. My role was never about me, it was about them needing me. Whether it was to pick up the pieces of their mess or to stand in as a comfort when they were too busy with their own lives. But now that I was no longer a tool they could use, I was forgotten. The invitation to Mason's graduation was just the straw that broke the camel's back. The truth was, it wasn't just this party. It was a culmination of years of being pushed aside. Of feeling like I had to earn love and approval from the people who were supposed to be my support system. I had been the peacemaker, the fixer, the one who always kept the family together. But no more. I wasn't going to continue living in this cycle of emotional labor that no one appreciated. A sudden thought crossed my mind. Why was I still waiting around for their approval? Why had I spent so much time living for everyone else's happiness, all while neglecting my own? They'd excluded me from this major event in my brother's life, and I was supposed to just accept it? I was supposed to be the bigger person, sweep it under the rug, and pretend like I wasn't hurt? Not anymore. That's when I decided, no more waiting. No more trying to please them. I deserved better. I deserved peace, freedom, and a life that wasn't dictated by everyone else's expectations. This was the moment. I wasn't going to sit by and wait for them to figure out their mess while I did all the emotional heavy lifting. I had carried their weight for too long. I walked across the room to my desk and opened my laptop. My hands were shaking slightly, but there was this surge of energy in me. A feeling of defiance that I hadn't felt in years. For the first time in a long time, I wasn't thinking about how my decision would affect anyone else. I wasn't thinking about whether my actions would disappoint my family. I was thinking about me. What I needed. What I wanted. I opened a new tab and started searching flights to Hawaii. I didn't even hesitate. I wasn't going to sit in this empty room, wallowing in self-pity. I wasn't going to wait for a phone call with more excuses or half-hearted apologies. This was my moment to take control of my own life. I clicked through the options flights to the Big Island. It wasn't impulsive, it felt right. The idea of the warm sun, the sound of the waves, the peace of being completely alone in a place that had no ties to the drama of my life. Hawaii felt like a clean slate. Before I knew it, I had booked the flight. 5 nights at a luxury beachfront resort. Ocean view? Check. Infinity pool? Check. Spa access? Of course. This time, I wasn't budgeting for anyone else's happiness. I was doing this for me. For the first time in what felt like forever, I wasn't thinking about how much money I could save or whether I could do something cheaper for the sake of others. I was indulging in this trip because I deserved it. It was an act of self-care, of rebellion against everything that had held me back for years. As soon as I clicked confirm, there was a sense of relief, a release, almost like I had been holding my breath the entire time. For once, I wasn't afraid of being selfish. For once, I wasn't worried about what my family would think of me. I was going to enjoy my life even if they didn't approve. Without thinking twice, I grabbed my phone and snapped a picture of my flight confirmation. I wasn't in the mood for anything overly dramatic or flashy. Just simple and straightforward. I posted the photo to Instagram with the caption, uninvited but not unwanted. Island vibes, family drama. It felt like the perfect mix of honesty and sarcasm. It was like a middle finger to everything I had been through. As soon as I hit post, the notifications started flooding in. I wasn't sure what kind of response I expected, but it wasn't long before my cousin Sarah messaged me, "Okay, Queen, go off. You deserve to live your best life." Mason, on the other hand, sent a text, "You're really skipping the graduation?" I felt a slight pang of guilt, but it quickly dissipated. He hadn't even thought to invite me in the first place. If I wasn't good enough to be included in the celebration, then I didn't owe them an explanation. But then there was Ava. I knew she'd see my post, and sure enough, she did. Her comment stung more than I expected. "Glad you found something to do. We didn't want drama anyway." She wasn't just tolerating my absence. She was practically celebrating it. And the worst part? My family was letting her. They had all chosen her over me, and now they were defending her actions like she was some kind of saint. I froze, staring at her comment for a moment. The anger that bubbled up inside me was sharp, but it wasn't as overwhelming as it used to be. Instead of responding or lashing out, I did something I hadn't done in years. I let it go. I didn't reply, I didn't block her, and I didn't even engage. I simply turned off my notifications and poured myself a glass of wine. I had finally realized that I didn't need to fight for their approval anymore. I didn't need to explain myself. The decision to go to Hawaii wasn't about making them understand. It was about making me understand. It was about me taking a step forward and living for my own happiness. Felt freeing. Like I was stepping out of the shadows of their expectations into the light of my own life. The next few days, I felt a sense of calm I hadn't experienced in years. I hadn't realized how suffocating it had been, always trying to please everyone else. But now, with every passing moment, I felt more in control. I was doing this for me. I was no longer waiting for them to figure things out. I was moving forward. As soon as I posted, the messages started flooding in. My cousin Sarah sent a laughing emoji. Okay, Queen, live your best life. Mason texted me asking if I was really skipping the graduation. But the worst was yet to come. I stared at my phone, the little screen glaring back at me like a mirror. I had expected some reaction, but the emotions swirling inside me were more intense than I anticipated. There was a strange sense of relief, mixed with something else I couldn't quite pinpoint. Maybe it was the satisfaction of making my own choice, or maybe it was the realization that I no longer cared what they thought. But then came Ava's comment. Ava, of course, commented on my post. Glad you found something to do. We didn't want drama anyway. I froze. My heart pounded in my chest. It felt like the air was being sucked out of the room. It wasn't just a comment. It was a deliberate jab, a calculated remark to remind me that my absence was, in her mind, a relief. She wasn't just ignoring me, she was celebrating it. Celebrating that I wasn't there. I stared at the screen, the words blurring as my emotions flared. I had always been the one to defend Ava. I had always been the one to overlook her mistakes, to make excuses for her behavior. But now, seeing her words on the screen, I couldn't ignore the bitter truth anymore. Ava had betrayed me in the most profound way possible. And yet here she was, acting like nothing had happened. She wasn't just moving on. She was erasing me. I could feel my chest tighten with the sting of betrayal all over again. I didn't reply, couldn't. My fingers hovered over the keyboard, ready to type something back, but I knew better. Responding would give her power. I wasn't going to give her the satisfaction. Instead, I turned off my notifications and poured myself another glass of wine. The wine wasn't for comfort. It wasn't even about drowning my sorrows. It was a simple act of reclaiming my space. I needed something in my hands, something to focus on as I let the storm of emotions pass. I had spent years being the dependable one, always fixing things for everyone else, always listening to their problems, always holding it together while they spiraled. But now, for the first time in forever, I was going to focus on me. No one else. The rest of the day was a blur of thoughts and feelings. I walked down to the beach, letting the sand run between my toes. I didn't know what I was looking for. Maybe peace, maybe just a distraction. I didn't have a destination in mind. The ocean was a beautiful chaos, so vast, so constant, and yet so unpredictable. It reminded me of my life. For so long, I had been swept up in the current of everyone else's drama. But now I was standing on the shore, watching it all unfold without being pulled back into the waves. The salty breeze brushed through my hair, and I closed my eyes for a moment, letting the sounds of the ocean wash over me. There was something incredibly freeing about not having to worry about anyone else. No obligations, no expectations. Just me. And that thought, just me, felt both strange and exhilarating. As the days passed, I found myself in a place of calm I hadn't felt in ages. Hawaii wasn't just an escape, it was freedom. The freedom to stop worrying about what my family thought of me and start worrying about what I thought of myself. I had spent so many years living in the shadow of their approval, trying to meet their expectations and make them proud, but at the cost of losing myself. I had always been the fixer, the one who held things together, and it had drained me. I had become so wrapped up in their lives that I had forgotten to live my own. The freedom here on this island felt like air in my lungs after years of suffocating. I woke up every morning to the sound of waves crashing against the shore, the scent of salt water in the air. I spent my days walking along the beach, meditating, and finding new ways to reconnect with myself. The resort was luxurious, but it wasn't the material things that mattered. It was the space it provided me, a space to breathe, to think, to finally be without the weight of everyone else's expectations. At night, I would sit on the balcony of my suite, watching the sunset over the Pacific, the sky turning shades of orange and purple. I would sip my wine and think about everything that had led me here. The decision to leave, to go somewhere far away and shut out the noise of my family, felt like the most empowering choice I had made in years. I had always played the role of the peacemaker, always the one who kept everything in balance. But the truth was, I had been sacrificing too much. I had been giving everything to everyone else and had nothing left for myself. It was a revelation. The more I thought about it, the more I realized that I had been afraid. Afraid of letting go of the role I had created for myself in the family. Afraid of what would happen if I didn't fulfill that role. But here in Hawaii, I had no role to play. I was just me. And for the first time, that was enough. Each day that passed, I felt more and more like myself. The weight of guilt that I had been carrying around for so long started to lift. I hadn't realized how much pressure I had been under until I wasn't. The constant need to fix things, to show up for everyone else, had drained me. It wasn't that I didn't love my family or care about them, but I had put their needs ahead of my own for far too long. I had lost sight of who I was in the process. In Hawaii, there was no need to explain myself. There was no need to justify my actions to anyone. I was just allowed to exist, to be. The days were simple but fulfilling. I would go for a morning jog along the beach, eat breakfast at a local cafe with fresh fruit and coffee, and spend the rest of the day exploring. I did whatever I wanted when I wanted. The freedom to make decisions for myself without having to ask anyone else for permission was intoxicating. I had been so afraid of disappointing my family that I had forgotten how to live for myself. By the third day, I stopped checking my phone. I hadn't heard from anyone in a while. The initial shock of my decisions seemed to have worn off, at least on their end. My mom had called, of course, but I didn't pick up. I wasn't ready to have that conversation yet. I wasn't sure if I ever would be. The idea of going back to their drama, of stepping into that space where I was expected to fix everything, made my stomach turn. For the first time in my life, I didn't feel obligated to play that part. I wasn't sure where things would go from here. Maybe one day I'd return home and face my family. But for now I was content. I had found a sense of peace I hadn't known was possible. There was no pressure here. No one asking me to solve their problems. No one telling me how I should feel or what I should do. I was allowed to just be. And for the first time, I wasn't just surviving. I was living. Hey, are you finding the story interesting so far? If you are, make sure to subscribe to the channel so we can continue the adventure together. The best part is just ahead. By the time I reached my resort, the family chaos was already in full swing. The phone had been buzzing nonstop ever since I checked in, but I had left it behind. I wasn't in the mood for any more drama. It was a mess, but not the kind of mess I was used to fixing. No, this time I wasn't there to fix it. I wasn't here to play the role of the peacemaker anymore. I was here to live, to be free. I had always been the one to clean up the messes, the one to step in when things got out of control, the one who kept things running smoothly even when my family was falling apart. But now, for the first time, I had no desire to save anyone. I had done enough. I was done. The resort was a paradise in every sense of the word. It felt like a world away from the tension I had left behind. The beaches were golden and serene, the sky endless and clear. I spent my days lounging by the beach, sipping cocktails, watching the waves roll in. I felt the weight of the world lifting off my shoulders, piece by piece, with every passing moment. The heat of the sun kissed my skin, and I reveled in it. I wasn't just escaping my family's chaos. I was reclaiming my space, my time, and most importantly, my peace. I posted pictures of my peaceful getaway on Instagram, sharing the beauty of my surroundings with the world. No caption needed, just the serenity of the moment. It was a stark contrast to the endless drama I had left behind. I wanted the world to see it. The calm, the beauty, the freedom. It was my statement, my quiet defiance. My mom and Mason kept texting me, asking where I was, trying to guilt-trip me into coming back. Why aren't you at the party? It's not the same without you. Mason is upset. He needs you. I ignored them. There was no guilt this time, no feeling of responsibility that weighed me down. I had done my part. I had been there for them when they needed me. But this time, I needed to be there for myself. It didn't take long for the family drama to escalate further. The texts from Jason started flooding in, his frantic messages describing the situation at the party were hard to ignore. Everything is going crazy here, he wrote. Mason and Ava are fighting again. And it's getting out of control. I couldn't help but feel a pang of curiosity, but I refused to engage. I didn't need to hear it. I didn't need to fix it. And then it all came to a head. Mason and Ava had always had a complicated relationship. They had been close once, but over the years, things had changed. Their falling out was no surprise to me, but I had hoped, for Mason's sake, that they would find some sort of peace. Apparently, that wasn't going to happen. The argument between them exploded and the tension in the room was palpable. I could imagine the scene in my mind. Each word between them like a knife in the air. Jason's texts kept coming, growing more urgent. It's getting worse. People are crying. This is a disaster. I read his words. but I didn't feel the pull to intervene. I was finally free from the cycle. I didn't need to be involved in their mess anymore. I had to keep reminding myself of that as the drama unfolded. And then came the real kicker. Jason's next message made my heart drop. Ava stormed out and Mason is crying. Everyone is fighting. I can't even believe this is happening.
And then Mason grabbed the mic and started shouting. The rest of the message came through with a sense of disbelief. He said, "I guess this night is about betrayal. So cheers to fake friends and fake family." I almost couldn't believe it. I blinked, rereading the message over and over again, trying to process it.
The party they told me I couldn't attend had turned into a complete disaster without me. I had been excluded, but somehow, in that very moment, I realized I had been right all along.
I wasn't the one causing problems. I wasn't the one making things difficult. I wasn't the one feeding the chaos. And yet, they were all falling apart without me. I leaned back in my lounge chair and stared out at the ocean, the waves crashing rhythmically on the shore. It felt surreal. I had always been the one to step in to put the pieces back together.
But this time, there was no need. There was nothing for me to fix, nothing for me to do. It was almost poetic in a way. The family drama, the dysfunction, it was all coming to a head, and I wasn't part of it anymore. I had removed myself and the world still kept spinning. I felt a mix of emotions. Disbelief, relief, maybe even a bit of guilt. But it wasn't the crippling kind of guilt that used to weigh me down. It wasn't the kind that would make me question whether I was doing the right thing. No, this was different.
I wasn't going to feel guilty for choosing myself. I wasn't going to feel guilty for stepping away from a situation that had been toxic for far too long. For the first time in my life,
I was making a choice for me, and that felt damn good. The notifications kept coming in, but I didn't look at them. I didn't respond. I didn't need to. The family had spent so long depending on me,
expecting me to put them before myself, and I had finally broken free from that pattern. This was the beginning of something new for me. I wasn't going back to save them. I wasn't going back to fix their mistakes. If they wanted to keep unraveling, that was their choice. But I was done. I had always thought that if I wasn't there, things would fall apart.
I had always assumed that if I wasn't the one holding it all together, the whole family would implode. But now I saw the truth. I wasn't the glue that held it all together.
I was just the person who'd been expected to do all the emotional labor without ever being given the credit or appreciation I deserved. And now, without me there to hold things in place, they were falling apart. But the difference this time was that I wasn't there to fix it. I didn't need to be. I closed my eyes and let the sun warm my face. The drama wasn't mine anymore. It was theirs. And I was done carrying it. I couldn't help but laugh when I got the text from my cousin Sarah explaining the party meltdown. Everyone was blaming each other, trying to save face while the night fell apart. My mom was in tears trying to fix the situation, but it was beyond saving. It wasn't just a regular party crash. This was the culmination of everything I'd been avoiding. The lies, the secrets, the broken trust, it was all unraveling in real time, and I wasn't there to patch it up this time. I could practically hear the chaos from the text messages flooding in. It was like everyone was performing for a stage, pretending to be okay while everything crumbled underneath them. Sarah's messages only added fuel to the fire of disbelief, making it harder for me to hold back my laughter. And then Sarah dropped the bombshell.
Aunt Janice said the party wouldn't have blown up if you were there. You're usually the one who calms Mason down when he spirals. I blinked at the screen, the words blurring for a moment as a wave of incredulity washed over me. I felt my chest tighten. So this was what it had come down to? They were blaming me? After everything? My own family, the same people who had discarded me when I was no longer useful. Now, they needed me to fix their mess. They had excluded me from everything, from Mason's big day.
And now they were pointing fingers, desperately trying to throw the blame on someone else. It was almost laughable how easily they shifted responsibility onto me. As though I was the one who had failed them, not the other way around. Had they really forgotten how many times I had been the one to shoulder everything? The late-night calls, the emotional crises, the financial help, the family dinners I had to organize because no one else could be bothered. And now that I had decided to walk away for once, they couldn't handle it? I put my phone down and stared out at the tranquil horizon, the sun sinking lower into the Pacific. The beauty of the moment contrasted so starkly with the mess my family was creating back home. The thought of going back to their chaos, being dragged into that unending cycle of drama and guilt-tripping, made my stomach churn. The winds blew softly, carrying the salt of the ocean air. And for the first time in a long time, I felt peaceful. No, I wasn't going back. I had spent my entire life trying to fix everyone else's problems. I had become so used to putting their needs before my own, to the point where I couldn't even remember what it was like to make a decision that wasn't about them. But sitting here by the ocean, with nothing to do but breathe, I felt a clarity I hadn't felt in years. I realized something: I had never been asked what I needed, what I wanted. No one had ever stopped to think about how all this had affected me. I wasn't the fixer anymore. I didn't want to be. It was their mess now. They had made their choice to exclude me, to treat me like I didn't matter, and I was no longer going to be the one to clean it up. The guilt that had once pulled at me was now replaced with something stronger. Resolve. I was done. The freedom I felt here, the relief in not having to answer to anyone, was worth more than anything I had ever done for them. They wanted me to come back and play my old role, to step in and act like nothing had changed. But everything had changed. I had changed. And then there was the part of me that remembered why I had left in the first place. The feeling of being invisible, of being a constant support without ever being truly seen. I thought of the nights I had stayed up late editing Mason's essays while he played video games. I thought about all the times I'd offered help only to have my gestures taken for granted, and how, when it was my turn to need support, no one was ever around. This wasn't just about the party. It was about years of feeling like a placeholder, a convenience, something useful when they needed it, but easily disposable when I wasn't. So no, I wasn't going back. Not for them. Not for anyone. I had finally given myself permission to be selfish, to stop giving without receiving. I had no idea what the future held for me, but it didn't matter. I would figure it out. I didn't need anyone else's approval anymore. I took a deep breath, letting the salt air fill my lungs. For the first time in a long time, I felt like I was breathing for myself. There was something so powerful about standing alone in your decisions, knowing that you weren't being coerced or pressured into anything. For once, I wasn't the one holding the pieces together, and it felt like freedom. I leaned back in my lounge chair, closing my eyes for a moment, just listening to the sound of the waves crashing against the shore. I could feel the tension in my body, the knot in my stomach, slowly start to unravel. This was the life I had been craving for so long. A life not defined by others' needs, but by my own desires. It was terrifying and exhilarating at the same time, but I was ready for it. When I opened my eyes, I looked at the setting sun, the vibrant colors spreading across the sky. It was beautiful. This was what it meant to be free. I didn't look at my phone again. I didn't care if the family was in turmoil. They could sort it out on their own. I wasn't going to be their emotional crutch anymore. I wasn't going to let them manipulate me into believing that I owed them more of myself. As the evening wore on, the sky darkened, and I walked down the beach, my feet sinking into the soft sand. I smiled to myself, knowing that I was taking the first steps toward a life I wanted to live, not a life I was expected to live. There was still a lot I needed to figure out, but one thing was clear: I wasn't going to waste another minute of my life trying to fix people who didn't even see me for who I truly was. I was staying in paradise for as long as I needed to, and for the first time I didn't feel guilty about it. By the time I was ready to leave, I had made my peace. The decision wasn't a sudden one, but rather the culmination of years of carrying the weight of everyone else's expectations. I had finally let go. I wasn't going back to fix things. I wasn't going to put myself back in a situation where I was constantly asked to solve problems that weren't mine to fix. I had chosen myself, and it felt amazing. I felt a profound sense of clarity, like a veil had been lifted, allowing me to see things for what they truly were. For so long, I had been the one to play the role of the problem solver, the one who always swooped in to rescue everyone. And while there was a certain pride in that role, there was also a deep, quiet exhaustion. I had forgotten what it was like to focus on myself, to care for my own needs before anyone else's. But now, for the first time in a long time, I felt free of that burden. I wasn't obligated to fix anything or anyone. I wasn't anyone's safety net anymore. I extended my trip for another week. The thought of returning home, back into that familiar chaos, the tension and unspoken demands, made my stomach churn. I couldn't do it. I wasn't ready to step back into that life. I had already spent so many years trying to keep everyone else happy, to make sure everyone was okay,
that I had forgotten what it felt like to live for me. This was my time. This was my opportunity to just be. I had nothing to prove anymore.
The family drama that had always loomed over me was now nothing but background noise. No guilt, no expectations. No more trying to meet standards that were set by others who didn't understand what it was like to sacrifice your own happiness for the sake of family. I had done my part. I had given everything. And yet when it came time for me to ask for the same, they couldn't even spare me the simplest act of inclusion. When I posted my final photo, a beautiful sunset with the ocean in the background and a cocktail in my hand, I captioned it, "They wanted me out, so I stayed gone." Best decision I've ever made. The words felt freeing to type, as if I was finally voicing something that I had been too afraid to admit for so long. I wasn't just enjoying the view or the vacation.
I was relishing in the fact that I had made a decision that was for me, and only me. The photo, the sunset, the ocean, the cocktail. Everything about that moment was mine.
It was a statement to the world, and more importantly to myself. I wasn't just surviving anymore. I was living. For so long, I had been trapped in a cycle where I thought I had to fix things, to make everything right. But I had never asked myself, who was going to fix me? Who was going to give me the space to breathe and heal? It wasn't that I didn't love my family,
or that I didn't care about them. It was that I couldn't keep losing myself to their needs, their wants, their expectations.
I had to stop being the fixer and start being the one who took care of her own heart. The sunsets became a metaphor for my own journey. Each night,
as the sky turned into vibrant hues of orange and purple, I saw the past days slip away. The weight of my former life, my old role, felt lighter with each passing moment. I spent my days wandering the beaches, letting the ocean air fill my lungs, knowing that nothing else in the world mattered right now. No one's approval, no one's neediness, only me.
There were moments, fleeting and soft, where I would think of my family. I could almost hear the familiar sounds of our chaotic gatherings, the laughter, the arguing, the quiet resentment simmering beneath the surface. But now, instead of feeling the pull to jump in and fix things, I felt a sense of detachment, of liberation.
It was like I had finally broken free from the invisible chains that had kept me tethered to a role I never truly wanted to play.
I realized that freedom wasn't just about the physical distance from my family. It was about the mental and emotional space I had created for myself. It was about giving myself permission to be selfish, to say no, and to choose what was best for me, not what others thought was best for me. For so long, I had been afraid of being perceived as distant or cold. I had worried that if I wasn't the one keeping everyone together, everything would fall apart. But now, sitting on a beach with the sun warming my skin, I understood something profound. I wasn't the glue holding everything together. I was the one being held together by everyone else's needs. But no longer. Each day felt like a little victory. I went on walks by the ocean, feeling the sand between my toes and the waves crashing gently against the shore.
I laughed more freely now, laughing at the absurdity of it all, laughing at how long I had put myself last in the name of love, only to find that the love I had been offering wasn't returned in kind.
I let the laughter fill me up, emptying out the years of frustration and quiet sadness. I also started to enjoy the simple things that I'd missed. I found myself savoring every meal, every sip of wine, every moment of peace. I hadn't realized how much I had neglected myself. The idea of sitting at a table in a restaurant and just enjoying a meal, without thinking about what others might need or want, was a revelation. It wasn't just about food or drink. It was about being present with myself. There were no more texts from my mom asking where I was or what I was doing. No more calls from Mason trying to get me to fix things, to mediate, to be the peacekeeper. The silence was blissful. The lack of responsibility felt like a weight had been lifted from my shoulders. I was finally free to be just me. Not the fixer, not the scapegoat, not the peacemaker. I was Madison. And that was more than enough. By the time I posted my final photo, I felt a deep sense of satisfaction. The sunset was beautiful, but it wasn't just the scene that made it special.
It was the fact that I had chosen to be in that moment, to savor that moment for myself. No apologies, no excuses, just me living my life for me. And for the first time in ages, I felt free. The chains that had held me for so long, expectations, guilt, the role I had played in my family's drama, were finally gone. I wasn't the fixer anymore. I wasn't the scapegoat. I wasn't anyone's emotional support animal. I was just Madison, living my life for me, and I couldn't wait to see what came next.
What do you think? I'd love to hear your thoughts and feedback. Drop a comment below and let me know how you felt about the story. If you enjoyed it,
don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel so you can stay updated with all the amazing stories coming your way. Your support means everything to me.
Thank you for sticking around and listening to the story till the end. See you in the next one.